Welcome back to Busch History. This is topic 5. This is during the Federalist era, and this is Alexander Hamilton's economic plan and ideas for our young economy. This follows directly topic 5, number 1, which is a broad look at the Federalist era and a PowerPoint discussion. This is a set of notes, though. Alexander Hamilton was another one of those guys in American history who was in the right place at the right time. A brilliant man. He was chosen as the first Secretary of Treasury by George Washington, because he just had a way of figuring things out and making them work, and he was very good with understanding the economics of the day. He was also a loose constructionist, meaning he thought that he could expand the power of the presidency through Washington, obviously, because he was never president, but that he could also expand some of the ideas in the Constitution through the idea of implied power. So let's take a look at what he does. So Alexander Hamilton believed that he had to get order into our finances. During the critical period prior to the Constitution, we had all kinds of difficulty paying back our debt. And Hamilton knew that paying back foreign debt was the key to survival for the United States. Because if we didn't pay back foreign debt, who would turn around and lend us money as we went forward? So he needed a way to fund the debt. And if you take a look at it, France and Netherlands and Spain had lent us money during the war. And he knew that that had to be repaid if we were going to borrow more money. So he came up with a plan of funding the debt. And funding the debt involves paying the debt by borrowing more money. He wanted to sell bonds to American citizens, take the money from the bonds that he sold to the American citizens, and pay that money off to the nations that we owed money to, thereby moving the debt from France and the Netherlands to American citizens. So he just moved the debt. It's like moving debt from one credit card to another. It's a little smoke and mirrors, but the international community is going to be much happier that we're paying them back. So in either case, he proposed the federal government issue new bonds in exchange for old ones. There were bonds that were about to expire, and there was some debate as to whether the government could actually pay those. So instead of paying them, he suggested just issue new ones. For example, if we have a $1,000 bond that's due today, instead of paying me back the $1,000, give me a new bond that pays me back $1,200 next year. Now, you might say, well, the government now owes another $200. Well, they didn't have the $1,000 to pay me today anyway. So next year, they'll pay me $1,200. If I like the idea, then I'm going to be ahead $200 next year, assuming they can pay it. What if I don't like the idea? What if I don't believe the federal government's going to be able to pay this money? I might sell my bond. I might sell my $1,000 bond to my friend Gus for $500. Gus gives me $500. I don't want my $1,000, but I have $500 because I don't think the government's going to last. But next year, if the government does last, Gus will have $1,200 from a $500 investment. Smoke and mirrors again? Sure. But this was part of his plan. It funded the debt. It was a way for the government to get money. So, controversy arose when it became obvious that the older bonds had been sold to speculators like my friend Gus. Well, he bought a lot of those bonds up thinking that next year they'd be worth a lot more. You know what? He was right. He was right, and the people who sold the bonds earlier on, because they wanted their money now, they wanted safety and security over the speculation, they lost big time. The speculators would now get 100% of the bond value, so Gus got $1,200 next year, and me, I got maybe $250 or $500, depending on what I actually sold that for. So Hamilton said, oh, big deal. This is just the way it works, and no one caused those people to sell those bonds to speculators. But matter of the fact was, it created a division, because who would buy those bonds? Who were those speculators? They were the wealthy people. They were the people who had money in the first place. They could buy those bonds and take the risk. Who sold those bonds? They were the people who couldn't take the risk. They were the people who were poorer. They had less money. So what do we have? We have wealthy taking advantage of the poor. Can you understand why Hamilton was looked at as an elitist? So now, take a further look. Assuming the state debts. Talked about this in the PowerPoint. Hamilton wanted to take all the state debts and make them a national debt. And he did that. He did that by taking the debts the various state governments owned, and owed, I should say, and made them national debt, which meant that all of the states would pay taxes to pay the debts off from the few states. And the southern states were actually very pissed off by this because they didn't incur most of this debt. Well, that caused him to move the capital. Not him, obviously, it caused Congress to move the capital onto the Potomac, the area that we now know as Washington, D.C. So the South gets the capital, The North gets the assumption of debt, and it's called Hamilton's Assumption Plan. He also comes up with the idea we need to establish a national bank to oversee and distribute this money. Someone's got to take in the money, some organization of bureaucracy has got to take in the money, some organization of bureaucracy has to distribute the money through whatever loans they might be. Somebody's got to sell those bonds, somebody's got to buy those bonds. That is going to be the national bank, and that's the idea of implied powers. James Madison claimed the Constitution did not give the federal government the authority to establish a bank. Now, think about this. James Madison is the father of the Constitution. He says the government can't do it. So he's a strict constructionist. It makes sense. Alexander Hamilton, who was key in helping James Madison, says, no, of course you can. If you can collect money, you got to put money someplace. It's implied. So he's a loose constructionist. So we start to see the sides dividing here. President Washington asked Thomas Jefferson his opinion. Jefferson agreed with Madison, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter because Hamilton favored loose interpretation, and it solved the problem. We have a question here of the ends and the means. And let's face it, the banking system is a pretty good idea. It hasn't always worked the way we wanted it to work, but it's worked well throughout the history of the United States. There have been stumbles, certainly here and there, but where would we be without a banking system? But this debate about the banking system will continue throughout American history. Several debates. The power of the federal government is a debate in American history. The power of the state governments versus the federal government, debate in American history. Interpretation of the Bill of Rights, debates in American history. The influence of the banking system in the American economy, debates in American history. There are a lot of them. We didn't solve a lot of these things. What we did is we laid out what the debates were, and Congress over the years has continued its debate with a lot of input from the public. So with that, we lead to the establishment of the national banking system of the United States. So this is just a small look at Alexander Hamilton in light of the larger scheme of the Federalist era, but as I said, these notes are also available on www.buschistory.net/YouTube, and it'll say Hamilton's economic plan. It'll be in the same folder as the PowerPoint. That was topic 1. Actually, that was discussion 1, or part 1 if you want, for topic 5, and this is part 2 of topic 5. So until next time here at Busch History, have a good day.